If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This has been another episode sponsored by Online Horse College. If you haven't had a look at the wide variety of equine-specific accredited courses, then go to onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there. Today's guest is Michelle O'Neill. Michelle thrives on being an all-round horsewoman. She commenced her riding career doing stock work on the family farm and then progressed to Pony Club. And while she was at Pony Club, Michelle participated in anything she could before she started specialising in dressage. But then after a few years of dressage competition, she changed tack and started barrel racing and has had some success. And also a highlight would be winning the Australian Open at Equitana in 2016 on a horse she bred and trained herself. Michelle dedicates much of her time to teaching and running clinics. She provides assistance with daily horse care, competitive riding, with a strong emphasis on horsemanship when the lessons in clinics, emphasising control, confidence and consistency. So along with the horsemanship clinics, Michelle also runs clinics on the trail at a beautiful home where she can get people to learn how to go safely, have fun with their horses along the way from the arena, and have the chance to train their horses in a new and interesting environment. That's a bit of a mouthful. Michelle, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, Glenys. Yourself?
Good. Now, Michelle, you know I'm going to start you off with a favourite quote, and I'm sure you've got a good one for us.
And it's a very old one for me too. We love quotes around here. There's quotes everywhere. But my dad, when I was a little kid, he said to me one day, "You only get out what you put in." And I've never forgotten that. He was talking to me one day about my horses, and he was probably motivating me to do a little more.
Yes.
He told me that, and it's something I always remember. You know, anytime I'm working on a young horse or even at a clinic, you know, if at the end of the day I'm doing a clinic, I'm not exhausted, I know I haven't done my best. So, you know, and that reflects in my students. So I always like to put in 100% if I can.
It's nice to let your students know too, just to remind them that, you know, horses aren't automatic. It is about a two-way, a team and a two-way conversation.
Oh, definitely. And you know, like sometimes we get so wrapped up in where we're at and what's going on in our life, and we forget that we're dealing with a living, breathing animal that has feelings and emotions, and they have bad days as well. I have a friend, he's a sports psychologist, and he's just horrified at what horse riders do, because at the end of the day, he says, it's not just you. He said, you're dealing with your brain and everything that's going on with you. He said, but you're dealing with an animal as well. And even though you've trained animals and stuff, there's still things going on with them. And you have to remember that sometimes.
Yeah. Now, we've talked about how you started riding, you know, stock work on the family farm, but tell us about one of your early memories, you know, an incident that may have happened with your horses, just something along those lines.
This is a series of things that happened, Glenys, and my parents will laugh. I was a terrible rider as a child. I'm sure anybody who went to Pony Club with me would happily vouch for that. I fell off so often. I actually lost count as a little kid. I lost count of how many times I broke my arm.
Oh, wow.
I would fall off, my pony, put my arm out and green stick my arm every single time. So, you know, my dad was a bit of a backyard racehorse trainer. He used horses on the farm. So, but they bought me very quiet horses. Please don't think I had bad horses. I was just a really bad rider.
Gee, I'm just trying to think. Was it in the same place all the time, or different arms? Or wow.
Generally, my left arm. Yeah.
Gee.
Just terrible. Just didn't comprehend how to fall off, and you know, just little tiny things. And I had really bad balance. I have a younger brother. He has amazing balance. As children, if you were going to pick one of us to be the horse rider, they always said you'd pick my brother because he had this beautiful balance. I had shocking balance. And my horse would step sideways and I'd fall off.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Now we know about, you know, how you started off doing dressage and then sort of went on to barrel racing, but to do with working with horses, you know, having a career in horses? Because you're saying that you're a terrible rider. It's not like you're a brilliant rider and everyone said, oh, wow, you should be a professional rider. How did it work out that you ended up working with horses then? What was the pathway there?
I think I was like a lot of kids, Glennis. I was, horse mad. A lot of girls, horse mad, and obsessed by horses. And honestly, I will tell you honestly, when I had to go away to boarding school in years 11 and 12, and my parents were very generous and enabled me to pick which boarding school I would like to go to. And I had 3 prerequisites for my boarding school. It had to be co-educational, it had to be agricultural, and I had to be able to take my horse.
Okay. That's fair enough. I'd be picking those 3 as well.
My parents have been very good to me. So, and I did. I went to a school and I took my horse. But, honestly, in year 12, I didn't take my horse back because I focused on my HSC. Mm-hmm. And then I went on to uni. And I, all the way through, I wanted to go and get a career with horses. And my dad, as I said, had worked in the racehorse industry. And he was like, no, you are not going to go and clean stalls. And there's nothing wrong with that, please. But, my parents, and honestly, I'm probably just wasn't destined. If you had known me then as a rider, you would go, there's no way this girl can make a living out of horses. Mm-hmm. And so they encouraged me very wisely to go off and do other things. I went and got a business degree. I worked in other industries. I worked for companies that were managing $8 million in assets. Did all sorts of things like that. But I kept in contact. I always had horses. Even at uni, I had a horse with me. I competed, a little bit of low-level dressage, trained. And I think the benefit of that was it helped me really become quite open-minded and have a pretty well-rounded view of the business sense of the horse world.
Yes.
So then in 2010, and I could just see a lot of stuff happening that I really didn't like. People being treated badly, horses being treated badly, people buying the wrong horses. And so I just sort of dipped my toe in the water and started my business, Cherry Tree Equine, and ran a few clinics. And I can safely tell you the first time I ever ran a clinic, I wished the ground would open me up and swallow me. So I just started like that, and I was working part-time, and then progressively I was able to actually work less for other people. And at that stage I was taking in a lot of outside horses and retraining horses, and we just grew it from there. So yeah, I am quite sure, as I said earlier, if anybody who knew me at Pony Club, they would tell you that there is no way I would ever have been able to make a living at horses. It just goes to show if you work hard enough at it, you really can achieve it.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm just thinking, if you must have had something though, because even though you're saying, you're a terrible rider and you're no good with horses and your balance was no good and you had too many broken arms, you must have had something. What do you think are the core skills or character traits someone needs to work in the horse industry? Taking skill away, because everyone starts with no skill. Some people are going to have more natural skill than others, but a lot of good riders will say, I was just persistent. I just kept going, What do they need? Is it the persistence, or what do they need to work in the horse industry?
I think to work in the horse industry, and in particular, Glennis, to be successful in that horse industry, you have to have that fire in your belly. It has to be that thing that you really want. We talk a lot about how people need resilience to survive in the horse industry, and that is so true. But you can be resilient as anything, and if you don't have that little bit of gravel in your guts that says, when things are going to get bad, I'm going to keep going, you get nowhere. And I was a bit like that. I think something that probably has helped me a lot is that I have problem-solving skills are pretty, I like to solve problems. And so when I walk into a clinic, I look at the problems that are in front of me, or I get on a horse. I feel for what's going on, and I start to work out the ways I can solve those problems, and it might not be in a particular set order. So I think that's probably a really good thing that people need to have. I think those good communication skills and the ability to network with people. I have had so many doors open to me by some amazing people because I have created really good networks. And I think in part that comes from humility. I see a lot of people in the horse industry who lack humility, and I think that shuts doors to them. And it's not just in the horse industry, it's everywhere. I think if you go with an open mind and a humble attitude, you will learn from everybody. And I think that has probably been the key things that have really helped me. And I'll give you a bit of a funny example about that. When I was teaching for TAFE doing horse industry courses, I had a student here and I was complaining that I couldn't work out where to hang my broom. And she took one look and she went, why don't you hang a piece of wire off that wall and hang your broom up there? And I went, oh, that's really simple and really smart. And I did it.
Yep.
I was the teacher, she was the student. She had a really good idea.
Yes.
I was happy to take that on board.
Yep.
And I think that open-mindedness, and I think too, as you said, because I'd done a little bit of low-level dressage and then got interested in the Western sort of events more, I came with a different mindset to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what type of saddle you ride in. I care that you're interested in horsemanship. That's why I have had lessons with people from so many different disciplines, and I think that's helped me a lot.
Okay, good. What do you think's the best thing? I mean, you made choices to come away from the business, and you're saying you were going in to solve some problems, but what's the best thing about working in the horse industry? You're in it day in, day out. Think about what you enjoy.
Oh, look, I've met so many amazing people. And by amazing people, I don't mean the people that you might naturally think of who have been amazingly successful. I mean, just the people who turn up my clinics, like some of the stuff they do and the things they can tell you about and what goes on in their non-horsey life. I love hearing about a lot of that. It is really interesting. It's opened a lot of doors for me. And I think the thing with the horse industry is we're so lucky because most of the people that, say, for example, I work with, they're part of the horse industry because they love it, because it's the thing that makes them smile when they get up in the morning. They may all have full-time jobs and families and be really busy, but when it comes to spending time with their horse, that's what they enjoy the most.
Yep.
And to be part of that is really fun.
Yeah.
That because I don't work a lot with top-level competitors. I'm working with people who are learning a lot and who are in the industry for the enjoyment. And, I get to see something really different in that, and I really enjoy it.
Good. Tell us about, because you said that you've worked with quite a few different people, anyone in particular that you've thought has been really pivotable in changing direction or changing something within your career?
Obviously, my family have always been a fantastic support to me, and they've put up with me. But there is two people. There is two people that I just would not be where I am today without them. The first one who came into my life was Adele Edwards, and we were actually laughing about this just recently. I actually went to her house to learn how to breakaway rope. She will happily tell you, and I will too, I am the world's worst breakaway roper. But until I met Adele, until I went to her house every Thursday afternoon and basically exercised her rope horse for her, I didn't know what it was to be a horsewoman. I didn't know. I just sort of sailed along, like a lot of people do. I sailed along in this little bubble and thought I was doing a really good job. And then I started to look at what she was doing with her horses. And I just went, wow, there's a whole nother level that I'm not aware of. And she has been amazing to me ever since. So, and the other person is Ian Francis. I attended an Ian Francis clinic, it'd probably be about 7 years ago now, and the humility of the man, the knowledge of the man, he's just amazing. He doesn't care who you are. He treats everybody with respect and dignity, and he is an amazing horseman, and the feel that man has for a horse is like I'm in awe of it. But I've been really lucky in that he hasn't only helped me with my horsemanship, and he has helped me with my horsemanship.
Yep.
Again, he sort of took me to that next level.
Yep. And
he's been amazing. But he's helped me a lot in the horse industry as a competitor and as an instructor. And when we released the Please Can I Have a Pony DVD, I had to pick Ian up from a clinic down at Delegate, and it's a long way from Delegate to Cooma in the car, as I found out, because when I picked him up, the people he was staying with, they said, oh, we hear you're releasing your DVD, and I hung my head between my knees and said, oh, yeah, we're doing it, and, Anyway, Ian didn't say anything, and Ian had seen the DVD, and we got in the car, and he gave me the rounds of the car the whole way home. And he said, you've done a great job. You should be proud of yourself. Stand up, stand tall. And he taught me what it is to be a good representative of our industry.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, to think beyond myself.
Mm.
So I'm very, very lucky to have him still helping me.
I think sometimes, within our industry, we're such a passionate lot that if anyone does anything just that little bit different, everyone's ready to jump on board and say, oh, that was no good, or, not that they're doing it any better, but it's very much, like you're not going to do it perfect. And as long as you realise that you're not going to do it perfect, but you are going to help people, that's the attitude you've got to have. Yeah. It doesn't matter that it's not perfect. Yeah.
No, that is exactly right. And you need people like Ian to actually to help you on your way and to let you know that, you are doing okay. I think I probably rang him, when I did my first clinic and a few other things, like any time like that. And he'll often just set me straight or, like there's that little bit of guiding light. And something else that happened, it was just after we released the DVD and there was an incident and some stuff was said about me and it was nothing to do with the DVD. It was completely unrelated. But I rang Ian because I didn't know what to do. I was really upset and he he said two things to me. He said, there's no road without a turn, and then he sort of went on to say, look, this will pass.
Yep.
And that was all I needed.
Yes.
It was that guiding light to say, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And as I said before, you're always going to get that little bit of flack. No one does it. And the thing is that you're not going to learn everything from one person. You're going to get bits and pieces of the things. And you don't have to learn everything from that person. You just have to learn the bits that are relevant to you. And if you take that away, I think that's really good. Yeah.
It's a bit like that thing when people walk up to you they're not generally at clinics, but sometimes we will be at other events and people will walk up to me and say, whose method do you follow? And for a long time I'd sort of look at the ground, shuffle my feet and mumble something. And I've learnt now, my partner Warren Schofield, he chipped me one day when I did it in front of him and he said, you say you follow the Michelle O'Neill method.
Yes.
And because it's exactly what you said, Glenys. I've taken bits from so many people, Guy McLean, Clinton Anderson, there'd be 100 other people I could think of. But, I've taken all those little bits from those guys and adapted what works for me and thought up some myself. And, and you have to put your hand up sometimes and go, actually, you know what? It's me. And you're right, you will cop some flack.
Yeah.
But and that's hard, I think, especially for young people. I think as we get older, we can take that, but, when you're young especially, that can be really tough.
If you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now, have a look, horsechats.com.
Tell us about horses. Who's your favourite horse? What's the one that's influenced you the most, do you think?
Well, I have two favourite horses, and they were related. They were related to each other. The first, I've had lots of amazing horses, of course, but my first horse was a horse called Chuck, and I bought him off some friends, and he was bred exactly how I wanted, and this and that. But what I didn't realise is when I bought him off them, they actually had bets on how long it would be before he killed me. And we're still friends, it's okay. But they actually had really good reason to be concerned because I was a fairly timid, not a timid rider, but not a great confident rider. Anyway, this horse, he changed my life because Rob Lawson was actually running a horsemanship clinic in Cooma and a girlfriend of mine was organising it and I said, oh, okay, I'll come along. And it had a groundwork component and I made the rookie mistake of turning up to a groundwork clinic in a flat halter and a, typical short lead. And Rob Lawson nearly killed me. But we've become great friends. But, I just didn't know. And this horse, he was so reactive, so sensitive, that if you trotted a figure of 8 and changed your inside leg pressure as you changed direction, this horse would leap through the air.
Okay.
He was so fried.
Yeah.
My friends hadn't had him for very long, I must add that. They didn't fry him. So, and Rob just showed me. He just went, this is not working. Look at what you're doing. And I was still riding very sort of just in my transition from English still, really.
Yep.
And so, Rob stepped me through, and Rob was the first person who taught me about groundwork, and I just went, wow. And if I hadn't had that horse, and that horse went on to be an amazing horse, he was ranked 12th in the country the day he actually was in the paddock and he broke his leg.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah. So we got him back. We did a lot of work, but he never came back to competition. But, so I'm eternally grateful to Chuck. We only just put him down last winter, actually. And my other horse is Squiggles, who you touched on earlier in the introduction. Squiggles he's homebred. He is actually by Adele Edwards' stallion, who's now passed. And that horse, he's just everything that you could ever hope for. But he's not an easy horse. He looks very quiet and very easy, but he's been a lot of work, and he's a beautiful soul, and he's like an old man, but he's actually currently out with injury, so he's been teaching me a lot about how to get one back.
That's the one that you won the Australian Open on, isn't it?
Yeah,
Squiggles.
Yeah. So he's only 8 years old, so we're hoping he'll be back, but he makes me smile every time I go to the horse yards, that horse.
Yeah.
He's one of those.
Good. What's your proudest moment, Michelle, with horses?
Oh, look, I love watching my students improve.
Okay.
And you notice I have a student who I was giving a hard time the other day. She comes to some of my clinics. First time she came to a clinic, she was chain smoking. She was so nervous. She was shaking like a leaf. She was nearly throwing up. She was like, and you know what? She's given up smoke. She's riding on her own. She is just loving her horse riding journey.
Yep.
She's having an absolute ball. But, so I love that side. But obviously, as far as horses, proudest moment, actually for one of my horses, it would definitely be the success I've had with Squiggles.
Yes.
Anyone who was at Equitana, and I copped a lot of positive feedback about this. Like, that horse ran his heart out at Equitana. Actually, he walked into the arena calmly until I asked him to go. And then when he'd finished, I dropped the rein and walked out on loose rein with one hand on the reins, rubbing him on the bum. That is a horse that had just run his absolute heart out. And you know what? I think probably the win was amazing, but to have so many people notice how calmly he was, and I know that's because of the work he's had and what I've done with him, and that was super proud.
Just going back, you're talking about your student improving and the amount that they've made improvements with their horsemanship and their riding, but it really is a personal journey, isn't it? Like, horses have got nothing to do with her giving up smoking. That's to do with the personal journey that she's been on, that horses have helped her through.
Definitely.
Yep.
And you see that a lot with people, the horses are so much a part of who they become. And like you say, it's that I would have no doubt that she would not have given up smoking if it wasn't for the confidence and the enjoyment stuff that she's getting from her horses.
Yep.
It's it's a very personal journey. I'm not saying everyone who gives up smoking should, but they can play parts and roles in our life outside of just being the animal we swing a leg over.
Yeah. What do you think has been your biggest challenge in your whole journey?
Not fall off.
Yeah, apart from getting over your broken arms and everything else. Yeah.
Honestly, Glenys, it's been confidence.
Has it?
It's been confidence. It has been, I walk into, even now, and I know this is probably not the sort of thing that you're probably ready to say, but I will walk into a clinic now, and people will have come for a 2-day clinic, and I'll walk in that first morning and look at all these people, and I'll think, why have these people come to listen to me? It's that thing, and it is a little bit about what you were saying before too, about, you do often get shot down. Ian has a saying, you don't get anywhere if you don't stick your neck out. So, you sort of, they still sometimes walk in and go, and then of course I start and I can do all this stuff with these people and everyone goes away really, really happy and that's what you want.
Yep.
But I think it is. I think that confidence thing is an issue, and maybe that is, it's a good thing too. It probably keeps me a little humble.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. It makes sure that I do my best.
Yes.
But confidence is, my friend, the sports psychologist I was talking about before, he says, if you're talking about competition, he said, if you're not nervous before you run, he said, you don't care. And I think too, as horse riders, there's a lot of talk, as you would know, there's a lot of talk about being nervous. and nervous riders and lots of women returning to riding after family and things and what they have to go through. And I think we need to possibly embrace that a little more.
Yep.
And go, this is okay. We can deal with this.
Is that the advice you give to someone? Someone else that's in your position that might be out there teaching people, or they've got a lot of knowledge but they're not confident to go and do it. What would you say to them? What advice would you give them?
Oh, just have a crack.
Mm-hmm.
Start small. Like I know he's not the most favoured person in Australia, but you've only got to look at Clinton Anderson's story. When he always wanted to be a clinician, a little bit different, but when he went to the States, he would fly halfway across the country to deliver a clinic to 2 people, and lose money on it.
Yep.
And he just stuck at it because that was all he ever wanted to be.
Yep.
So sometimes you have to do that. But you don't know if you don't try.
Yes.
And you know what? You've got a lot of time sitting in your rocking chair when you're older to look back and go, oh, if only I'd done this.
Mm-hmm.
The door isn't going to open for you. You have to walk up there and open it and have a go.
Okay.
And if it doesn't work, learn from it.
Yes.
Either learn from it and go, how could I do this better? Or maybe, not everybody is suited to teaching. Maybe there's another niche for you somewhere in the industry that's just as important.
Mm-hmm. Wait, can you hear anything? No? That's because we're waiting for someone with a good quality horse product to be advertised here. If that's you, then contact us, horsechats@horsechats.com, and we'll send you the details. Thanks. When you do go out and teach, what's a common problem that you see that, it might be a group of people that you haven't seen before? What's a common thing that you see across the board that you can help people with? Because I'm thinking for our listeners, because they want to learn too. They listen. There's education in interviews and in the podcast and listening to different people. What can you teach them?
Look, the thing that I see most at clinics, people not being the leaders they need to be for their horses. And by that, I'm not talking about anything earth-shattering. What I'm talking about is when you're standing there and, you're just standing beside your horse, don't let him walk over the top of you, because that's where it starts. So, that is the biggest thing. It's the biggest thing I see at clinics is where boundaries haven't been established. And I use an analogy with people all the time, especially, I get a lot of mothers and things to my clinics. And I say, would you let your kids do that? And mostly they go no. And you go, if you wouldn't let your kids draw on the walls, pull all the food out of the fridge and stomp it all over the floor, get up and come and go from the house anytime they wanted, why would you let your horse behave in that sort of a way? So it is a little about just starting with some basic boundaries. And if people can establish those boundaries, they're going to find that relates to every aspect of dealing with their horse. I see a lot of people who, and it's that thing when people come to clinics, they will say, oh, my horse does this, my horse does that.
Yep.
And, if your horse is doing that, there's obviously something going on that you're doing. And it often starts with that simple thing of even, going to catch your horse in the yard, like get him to face you. If I ran into you down the street, Glenys, and I was talking to you and you turned your back and walked away from me, I'd kind of go, oh, obviously I've upset her. She doesn't want to talk to me. So why do people think that's okay with their horse when they're trying to establish a communication, obviously non-verbal, they're trying to establish a communication stream with their horse and they let it turn around and walk away?
Yes.
So, it's the little things that matter.
Yep.
And as for riding, like if you get away from the groundwork, the biggest thing I see at clinics is people having not developed enough feel to be soft to their horses. They get into that tug-of-war situation where when stuff goes wrong, the first thing they do is pull back on 2 reins. And, of course, if your horse is broke and educated and has been trained in all of this, then that's okay. But if you're riding a young horse or you're a young or inexperienced rider and you do that, then obviously as soon as you pull back and grab hold of the reins, that horse's head and neck weighs more than most of the girls that ride them. So straight away you end up with a tug-of-war situation and the horse becomes concerned and you've got issues.
Yep. All right. Now, thinking about books, have you got a book that you'd like to recommend for our listeners, something that's going to complement their training?
This might surprise some people when you think about the industry I'm in now, but a book that I actually really enjoy is Jane Savoy's book, It's Not Just About the Ribbons.
Yes, actually, that's a good one.
Yeah. I think that applies to you whether you're a trail rider or a barrel racer or a dressage rider. I think it's a book that applies to so many people. If you ask me the book that permanently sits by my bedside, it's Ian Francis's little book of quotes called That Winning Attitude. And it's just a little book full of quotes. And if you're having a bad day, it's not a bad one to sit down and have a flick through. And if you're having a good day, it's also a good one to sit down and have a flick through. Yeah, so they're two books that I'm very fond of.
And remember, you can find all the books recommended by our guests at horsechats.com/books. You can have a look at the guest page for the individual book they recommended, or just look at the recommended books by order of popularity at horsechats.com/books. Good. And while we're here, we should talk about your DVD as well. Please, can I have a pony? I mean, how often is that question asked?
Sure, I could probably get you one. We did the DVD, Please Can I Have a Pony, in conjunction with Horsewise magazine.
Yep.
Yeah, the kids magazine in Australia.
Yep.
And it was basically released as a result of just seeing so many people buy the wrong horse.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people having their dreams shattered because the horse that they purchased just wasn't quite suitable for what they want. And a lot of that comes back to people letting emotion rule when they go and look at horses. And as you and I have been saying, horses, there's so much emotion involved with horses because they're the thing that we love and we're so passionate about them. And, it's all nice to go and want that beautiful Palomino horse with the 4 white socks, but if you're just learning to ride, you might be better with an old bay horse that just pokes along.
Yeah. Yep.
So it has some basic care parts to it as well, and for people who are getting their first horse, but it is aimed at anybody buying a horse. It just steps through hints and tips how to actually take some of the emotion out of it and to buy a horse that is going to last you as long as you want. And, that I was saying, buying the horse is the cheapest part is so true. But
yes.
When you buy, and I know someone, they have bought 4 or 5 horses that I'm aware of that have not suited, and they've either sent them back or sold them on. And that's sad. It's sad for the horse too. I don't like to see horses be put through that.
And also too, not good for the industry because, there's a lot of people who are keen, enthusiastic, would like to give it a go, and then they meet with a horse that's not suitable for them and, they have a fall or they, fall off and break their arm more times than what they can remember. I don't know. But it leaves them they lack that confidence then. And then they don't stick with it because they haven't really found a suitable horse that they can get out and have those hours and hours and hours of enjoyment.
Yeah.
And they're not sort of getting anything back.
That is exactly right, Glenys. And they sort of go one of 2 ways when that happens. They either battle on and they don't enjoy it and, or they leave the industry. And that, Australia is, when you compare us to other parts of the world, the horse market in Australia or the horse industry in Australia is very small. So when someone leaves the industry because they've bought the wrong horse or have been sold the wrong horse, that's a loss to everybody. And the thing is, it doesn't matter whether you're me or you or the person who just goes for a trail ride every second Sunday. If there's less people in the industry, there's less choice for all of us. And there's less opportunity for all of us. So, it's about maintaining an industry that is also thought of by the rest of the country in a positive light.
Yes.
Yeah, so, if you have someone who's bought a wrong horse and they run around and tell 10 of their friends how they got rorted and how all this bad stuff has happened to them, if those 10 people are parents, are they going to encourage their children to get into horses? No.
No.
They get them to do something else.
Michelle, what are you looking forward to now? You've got your horse that you know, he's off at the moment, Squiggles. What plans have you got for him, and what other plans do you have?
So Squiggles is undergoing rehab at the moment, and he will be out until the end of the year. So we're hoping that he will return to competition at the end of the year. In the meantime, I've got some really nice young horses to play around with, and I've got a couple of 3-year-olds that are riding, and I've got a whole heap of foals and weanlings and stuff that I'll start working with when we finish competition in the next couple of weeks. I've just been competing another young horse, just poking around on him. But, yeah, and then I've got heaps of clinics coming up. I seem to be travelling over the whole southern half of New South Wales in the next month or so, which I'm really looking forward to because I'm going to some new places. So I'll get to see some new people and some new horses, and that'll be fun. So, yeah, just poking along and staying warm over winter.
That sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Now, Michelle, can you summarise your philosophy with horses into a message for our listeners?
We sort of touched on some of it before, talking about everything you do with your horse is training it, good or bad.
Yep.
So, every time you walk into the yard or the paddock, whether you like it or not, you are training your horse. And talking about quotes before, Ian Francis has a little story and he tells, and it basically comes back to your horses go how you ride them. And that is so true. So, if you're having a bad relationship with your horse, go back and have a look at what you're doing and break it down and see are you just thinking that you're doing a great job when you're on their back, but when you're on the ground, is everything wrong? So, or wrong for that horse. So, go back and look at it. So, just every time you go near your horse, you are training it.
Yep. Okay, and then, Michelle, how can people contact you?
So we have a Cherry Tree Equine has a website and a Facebook page. So you can contact me through either of those. And on both of those, we have not only lots of really nice photos of our place and all our horses, but we have all our clinics that are coming up and where I'm off to and that sort of information. So, and a little bit more about us and what I do. And if anyone wants to find out and check out how beautiful the northern end of the Monero actually is, there's lots of cool photos to go and see.
Okay. And those details will be on horsechats.com/Michelle O'Neill, or go to horsechats.com, search for Michelle or search for O'Neill, and that page will come up for you just in case you've missed those contact details. All right. Thanks very much, Michelle, for taking your time to talk to us today. I'd love to talk to you again, particularly, sort of getting in a little bit more about your philosophy and some of your training as well would be really good.
Oh, thank you, Glenys. Thanks for talking to me today. I've enjoyed it.
Okay, then. I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.